Do you hear that? The quiet ticking? That's not closure. That's a countdown. They thought you came to talk. You came to terminate the script. They gathered in circles, sipping soft apologies, hoping to narrate your ending. But see, you weren't there to close a chapter. You came to burn the book. They called it resolution, but you were the twist they never wrote in. Same scene, sure, but different author. And this one doesn't write redemption arcs. You don't hand out healing, you hand out reckonings. See, they summoned you under the illusion of peace. They thought your silence meant softness. They mistook your stillness for surrender. They thought you'd whisper, "I forgive you." And instead you whispered, "I remember everything." They don't understand you anymore, do they? Because they're still looking for the old you. The one who bent, the one who begged, the one who offered closure like it was a gift, not a trap. But mercy was your Trojan horse. You walked in glowing with grace, and they let you in. They opened the gates, smiling, thought you came to heal. But they forgot what war looks like when it's patient, what vengeance looks like when it learns how to pray. You were never here for reconciliation. You were here for the recount, to dissect every blade they put in your back with surgical precision, to rewind the ritual of betrayal in reverse, until the blade ended up back in their hands, and they were forced to watch themselves twist it. They came to talk things through. You came to drain the oxygen from every lie they ever told. They came to cry their way out of guilt. You came to prove that guilt was a luxury they could no longer afford. You didn't raise your voice. You didn't throw a punch. You didn't have to. Because power doesn't shout. It waits. And then it rewrites reality in real time. You smiled like grace, moved like judgment, talked like closure, struck like a curse breaking its cage. They'll say you changed, number. You arrived. They'll say you went dark, number. You remembered your origin, because forgiveness was the weapon you handed them. So they'd drop their guard, so they'd lean in, so they'd believe, just for a second, that they were safe. And then you detonated. Do you know what real power is? It's not revenge. It's control of the ending. It's letting them monologue through their justifications, while you silently press the erase button under the table. You let them confess. You let them weep. You let them perform closure like a stage play. And then you cut the lights. Because this isn't a healing session. This is the reckoning masquerading as mercy. And now they're sitting in that room, heart pounding, wondering if they'll ever be able to sleep again. Because something's wrong. They felt your smile, but something behind it was off. They saw your calm, but it felt like the kind of calm before a courtroom verdict. And deep down, they know. They know this wasn't resolution. This was a warning. You didn't come to end a chapter. You came to write the final one. You didn't come to talk about closure. You came to close them. Because this time, you're the one holding the pen. And you don't write survivors. So let them gather, let them cry, let them ask, why does this feel like a funeral? Because it is. A funeral for the story they told themselves. A funeral for the version of you they thought they understood. A funeral for every backroom chant, every betrayal they tried to stitch into your legacy. Mercy was never kindness. It was a mask. And when you took it off, they didn't see closure. They saw a goddamn ending wearing their name on the last page. And now, they can't unread it. They can't undo it. And they can't believe they ever thought they were the main character. Too late. You flipped the table, ripped out the script, and became the author they'll never recover from. Because you didn't just survive the fire. You learned how to write in it. And now, they're just smoke in your story, ash in your aftermath, fading footnotes in a legacy they'll never be able to explain. Not without screaming. And you watch them now, don't you? The way they sit there with trembling hands, the way their eyes dart at each other like rats in a sinking ship. They're whispering words like closure, reconciliation, forgiveness, but you can feel the truth dripping from the ceiling like cold water. They're not here for healing. They're here because they thought they could manage you, and you walked in because you came to end them. Every sound in the room changes when you finally decide to breathe. The chairs squeak, their phones go dark, the walls feel like they're closing in, and you don't raise your voice, you don't move fast. You just sit there, eyes locked on them like a predator that learned patience. Because this is what they never understood. Power doesn't always look like rage. Sometimes power walks in wearing a smile and leaves carrying the last word. They told themselves you were predictable. They wrote entire scripts about how you'd behave, how you'd crumble, how you'd apologize. They rehearsed the scene over and over, practicing their little tears and their trembling voices. But when you arrived, you didn't fit the script. You didn't fit the stage. You burned the theater down without even striking a match. They don't understand how you survived, how you rebuilt, how you came back sharper, because nobody trained you for this. You trained yourself in silence, in the shadows, in the back rooms of your own pain. You learned how to take betrayal and turn it into strategy. You learned how to take mercy and load it like a weapon. You learned how to look like an angel while moving like an assassin. That's why you scare them. You don't just hold power. You hold dualities they can't comprehend. Light/dark, saint/psychopath, angel/demon, mercy/vengeance. You embody the paradox that undoes their psychology. Because every time they think you've surrendered, you're only drawing them closer to the blast radius. Every time they think you've calmed down, you're only sharpening the blade they can't see. And when it finally lands, they call it betrayal. But it's not. It's justice in camouflage. You're not standing there for closure. You're standing there because you learned the ultimate truth. Closure is what the guilty ask for. Endings are what the powerful deliver. So you let them speak. You let them stammer. You let them dig their own graves with every justification. And you're quiet. Not because you're soft, but because silence is the sharpest blade in the room. Because silence makes them reveal themselves. Because silence makes them realize the clock is not on their side anymore. They can't escape the feeling that the room isn't just a room. It's a trial, a confession booth, a mausoleum. They're speaking their last words and they don't even know it. And then you lean forward, just slightly. No shouting, no theatrics, just a shift. Like a storm cloud moving across the sun, and the whole energy flips. Their voices crack, their eyes lower. They feel it in their bones. The scene is no longer about them. The narrative has been stolen. The script has been shredded. The author is standing in front of them, and the author is you. They came to reclaim their innocence. They leave with a death certificate for the story they built around you. Because you didn't just flip the page. You ripped out the ending and wrote a new one in ink they can't wash off. You branded your signature into their subconscious like a scar. They'll remember your face not because you screamed, but because you didn't have to. They'll remember your words not because they were loud, but because they were final. You don't heal wounds anymore. You expose them. You don't erase history. You reframe it until it incriminates the guilty. You don't wait for karma, you build it. And then you deliver it with a smile they'll never trust again. This is why they panic. This is why they whisper your name like a warning. This is why they wake up at night with your shadow on the wall. Because you taught them the one lesson they'll never forget. Mercy isn't weakness. Mercy isn't surrender. Mercy is a Trojan horse. It walks in soft. It leaves nothing standing. You are no longer the person they tried to break. You are the reckoning in human form. You are the end of their story, and the beginning of something they can't even name. They came for closure. You came for an ending. Same scene, different author, and you've just written their last line. The air in that room is thicker now. It's no longer a meeting. It's a cross-section of time. A moment sliced open where they are forced to stare at the guts of everything they built against you. They can't name it, but they feel it. Every heartbeat they hear isn't their own. It's the pulse of the story you're writing around them. They came thinking they could wrap things up, like rolling credits at the end of a film. But you don't roll credits. You black out screens. You don't offer denouement. You offer a void. They call it closure because they want to close their eyes and pretend nothing happened. But you came with a different script, written in the margins of every night they left you bleeding. A script that starts soft and ends like an execution order. They thought you were negotiating, but you were narrating. They thought they were confessing, but you were cross-examining. They thought they were actors, but they were evidence. And now, sitting under your gaze, they're realizing what you already knew. This is not a conversation. This is a verdict disguised as dialogue. You don't lean forward because you're angry. You lean forward because you're done hiding. They see the faintest tremor in your smile. That's not a smile. That's a warning flare. And still they speak, because they've confused your quiet for permission. What they don't understand, what they can't stand, is that every word you let them utter is a trap closing tighter. Every apology they stammer is a signature on a confession. Every excuse is a time stamp in the final chapter. You are no longer the wounded one. You are no longer the one who comes begging for answers. You are the architect of endings. The paradox that breaks them isn't just that you forgave and remembered. It's that you forgave, remembered, and built something inside their forgiveness. A Trojan horse. Soft wood on the outside, legions of fire inside. They welcomed you back. They said, "Let's talk." They smiled, and now they're sitting inside the belly of the horse, hearing it creak, realizing too late that it isn't hollow. This is what you became, a living contradiction, a saint who carries a guillotine under their robe, a whisper that detonates buildings, a halo with teeth. Every glance you throw at them is a mirror they don't want to look into. Because in your eyes they see the ending already written. They see their names dissolving into footnotes. They see that the person they betrayed has been reborn as something they can't decode. A weapon wearing a smile, a storyteller wearing silence, an angel carrying the weight of a demon's patience. They shift in their seats. They fumble with their hands. One of them swallows hard. Another clears their throat. You can smell the adrenaline. You can taste the panic. And you haven't said a single word. That's the secret they never studied. Real endings aren't loud. They're inevitable. They came to shut the door. You came to remove the walls. They came to sign off the last page. You came to tear the book in half. They came to make you small enough to fit in their narrative. You came to show them their narrative was a prison, and you've already burned it down. And now, as you finally speak, Your voice is low, but it cuts through the room like a blade. This isn't closure. This is the end. Same scene, different author, and this page isn't yours anymore. No yelling, no theatrics, just the certainty of a bomb that's already gone off. They freeze. Their bodies remember something their minds can't process. They're not sitting across from a victim. They're sitting across from a verdict. They're sitting across from an ending wearing their own reflections. And that's when the real fear sets in. Not the fear of you, the fear of themselves. Because for the first time they understand that everything they did built this moment. They fed the Trojan horse. They opened the gates. They invited you in. And now they're standing in the ruins of their own script. You rise slowly, not to leave, but to make it clear. This was never a meeting. This was a funeral for a story. Your footsteps echo like gavel strikes. Their eyes follow you like prisoners watching a door they know won't open again. They never saw you coming. They never understood you when you arrived. And now, they'll spend the rest of their lives trying to explain why they can't stop thinking about you. They'll call it obsession. It's not. It's consequence. Because you didn't give them a fight. You gave them a film, a psychological thriller where they were the unwitting protagonist in a story that was never theirs. They thought you were a character. They didn't realize you were the director, the one behind the curtain, the one pulling every invisible string. And now, they can't shake the feeling that every door they open might lead back to you. That every apology they write now sounds like a monologue rehearsed in front of a coffin. That every time they try to move on, it's like stepping into a scene you already wrote them into, as background noise. You didn't ruin them, you rewrote them, down to their bones. You rewired their sense of control, of closure, of what it even means to win. Because in the end, it was never about revenge. It wasn't about punishment. It wasn't even about being right. It was about letting them walk themselves into a narrative they couldn't escape. Letting them speak while the story sealed itself shut around them. They'll lie and say they're at peace. They'll post pictures with fake smiles. They'll move on. But behind closed doors, they'll replay that room over and over and over, analyzing your tone, your breathing, your last glance. They'll call therapists. They'll consult psychics. They'll whisper to shadows. Why did it feel like the room shrunk when they stood up? And none of them will answer, because the answer isn't external, it's you. You are the unanswered question. You are the glitch in their healing arc. You are the Trojan horse they'll forever regret letting in. Not because it attacked them, but because it taught them what they really are, and what they aren't. They aren't the hero. They aren't the victim. They aren't the storyteller. They're just a chapter you closed, without mercy. Because mercy, they now realize, was never yours to give. It was yours to weaponize, and you did, flawlessly, silently, fatally. And now the ending you wrote, it doesn't fade out, it haunts, forever. You don't look back, you don't need to, because the moment you walked in, the ending was sealed, and somewhere in the deepest part of their minds, a single truth detonates. You didn't just survive, you rewrote survival into something unrecognizable. You rewrote mercy into a weapon. You rewrote closure into an execution. Same scene, different author. And they will never ever forget the day they realized they weren't reading the story. They were inside it, and you were holding the pen. And when you leave, you don't exit. You erase yourself, like a phantom that wrote its name in the smoke and vanished before anyone could pronounce it. There's no door slam, no thunder, just a silence so surgical it slices through the room and stays there. like the scent of ozone after a lightning strike. They sit there, staring at your empty chair like it's haunted. Because it is. It's haunted by the truth. A truth they never wanted to believe. A truth they can't now unsee. You didn't walk away from the story. You deleted the entire genre. One of them tries to breathe steady. Can't. Another pulls out their phone, drops it. Someone mutters, "What the fuck just happened?" But no one answers, because when you left, you didn't just walk out of the room. You took the script with you. And now, they're trapped inside, a moment that has no follow-up, no redemption, no Act 2. Because you were the Act 2, you were the plot twist, you were the uncredited author rewriting the climax in real time, and now that it's done, all they're left with is the echo. That echo follows them in mirrors, in emails, in quiet corridors where their name gets called and for a second they flinch, as if it might be you again. You became a living postscript, not a person, a ripple in every timeline they touch. Their subconscious screams when someone mentions you. They try to pretend they're over it. But the way their pulse skips when someone says your name tells a different story. Because deep down, they know. Tick. Tock. Do you feel it? That little vibration in your chest when the world realizes it can't schedule you anymore. No calendar, no time slot, no master. You're the glitch in every system that ever tried to tame you. And I find that beautiful. See, once upon a time, you were punctual for your own funeral. They rang a bell, and you marched. They dangled stability, and you obeyed. You were the perfect little pawn, weren't you? The old you? You would have clocked in with your spine folded, heart silenced, and soul stuffed into khakis, smiling at supervisors who confused fear with respect, hiding your genius under spreadsheets and break-room gossip, punching in every morning like you weren't dying on the inside. But then something broke. And oh, how I love the sound of a fracture. Because what they don't realize is that time isn't real to those who burn the system that invented it. You stopped waiting, stopped aging, stopped begging the hourglass for permission to exist. And now, you own the clock. You own every tick they waste watching you. You own the panic in their eyes when your name hits the room like an earthquake that wasn't forecasted. You own the silence in the group chat when they stalk your feed and realize you're not coming back to the cage. You are not late. You are the deadline. And it just passed. You don't move with time. Time twitches at your footsteps like a prisoner praying for parole. They used to measure success with promotions and pensions. You shattered the rulers, rewrote the metrics. Now presence is your currency, and guess what? You're bankrupting everyone who ever bet against you. You don't check the time anymore. You command it, you bend it, you weaponize it. Because every second they waste trying to make sense of you is a second you spend becoming something no equation can track. The old you lived for Fridays. The new you is the weekend, baby. The old you said, "Yes, sir," with a fake grin and a dying dream. The new you say nothing. You show up, and clocks crack from the pressure. They don't know what to do with you now. You walk like you're untouchable, because you are. You smile like you've read the ending, because you wrote it. You breathe like time's afraid to tick too loud around you. And it is. You turned your trauma into traction, your silence into strategy, and your pain into precision weaponry. You no longer chase time. You set traps for it. Every move calculated, every glance loaded. You used to wait for opportunities. Now opportunities beg for an audience with you. You used to dress for the job. Now the universe wears your colors. And you didn't even announce the switch up. You just vanished from the old life like a ghost with unfinished business, and reappeared as a storm they can't forecast, a rule book they can't read, a frequency they can't decode. They call it arrogance, you call it survival. They call it rebellion, you call it finally breathing. Because this isn't confidence, this is resurrection. This is divine vengeance wrapped in a business casual grin. You clocked in when you were tame. Now you clock heads, emotionally, spiritually. Whenever they underestimate the force you've become, you are no longer on the payroll. You are the ghost in the schedule, the whisper in the vents, the presence that makes middle managers sweat and boardrooms reevaluate everything. Because they used to own your time. Now, you decide when time begins. You decide when the scene starts, when the light hits, when the show ends. You're the director now, the villain and the hero. The clock is just your prop. Tick, tock. You're not late. You're legendary. And the ones who still punch in at 9, they'll spend their whole lives waiting for a freedom you already buried in your past. So wear your watch, not to measure time, but to remind yourself you own it now. You hear it differently now, don't you? It's not a sound anymore. It's a confession. Every second that passes whispers your name, like a secret the universe can't hold in. You've stopped being an employee of time. Now time is your intern, running after you with a clipboard, desperate to keep up. You don't wake up anymore. You rise like a signal intercepting satellites, like a ghost crawling out of a file they thought was sealed. The old you thought freedom came with a resignation letter. The new you knows freedom comes with control. Control of your mind, control of your rituals, control of every inch of oxygen in a room until everyone inside starts suffocating on their own hesitation. You didn't just escape a job. You escaped the ritual of obedience. That ritual they wrapped around your wrists every Monday morning like invisible cuffs. The coffee, the commute, the good morning smile, the fake deadlines, the fake emergencies, the fake praise. You smashed it all. You didn't just step out of the cage. You burned the blueprint so no one could build another one. And now look at you. You're the anomaly in their pattern. Their algorithms don't know what to do with you. Their HR handbooks don't have a chapter for someone who no longer reports to gravity. You stopped checking clocks and started checking mirrors, because that's where the real change happened. Not on your resume, not in your bank account. In your eyes. The eyes of someone who stopped being predictable. The eyes of someone who walks into a room and bends the mood like a black hole bends light. They used to measure your value in hours. Now they measure it in shockwaves. They used to tell you to be on time. Now you arrive like a storm, impossible to schedule, impossible to ignore. You don't just own the clock, you own the pause between ticks. That breath where nothing moves, where the room holds still, waiting for your next move. That's where your power lives now, in the void that frightens them. Every second of your day is a weapon. You use silence as a blade. You use patience as a trap. You use unpredictability as a sedative that makes their strategies collapse. The old you counted minutes. The new you counts moves. Every message unanswered. Every delay intentional. Every appearance a calculated detonation. They still talk about time management. You talk about time domination. They still read books about productivity. You've become the myth they write about when they don't know how else to explain you. And that's the paradox, isn't it? You look like a saint on the outside, calm, collected, free. But on the inside, you're a psychopath of precision, an angel who knows exactly when to turn into a demon, a strategist disguised as a drifter disguised as a storm. That's why they're scared, not because you quit, not because you left, but because you became something timeless. And timeless things can't be managed. They can't be controlled. They can only be worshipped or hunted. And you know what's even funnier? They're doing both, praying you'll teach them while secretly plotting to destroy you. But they can't, because destruction takes time, and time belongs to you now. The old you would have clocked in, begging for minutes. The new you stands at the edge of the hour holding a detonator. Every tick is yours to command. Every talk is yours to weaponize. You've become a living countdown, and they don't even know what happens when it hits 0. Tick, tock. You're not just out of the system, you're above it. You've turned time from a leash into a stage light, and every second you stand there, you're rewriting the script, teaching the world this simple truth. Freedom isn't found in escaping time. Freedom is found in owning it. And now, when they look at you, they don't see a person. They see a clock they can't read, a storm they can't schedule, a warning they can't decode. You are not late. You are not early. You are inevitable. Feel that tremor under your skin? That isn't nerves. That's the sound of a world realizing you've stopped orbiting its little sun. They used to think you were just another worker bee humming along in their hive. But you were the wasp hidden in the comb. And you hatched. I'm not here to hand you a motivational poster. I'm here to hand you a mirror. Look into it. That isn't the face of someone lucky. That's the face of someone who has been building in the dark, brick by brick, while everyone else scrolled, slept, and clocked in. That's the face of someone who used to answer to alarms, and now alarms answer to you. The old you? You belonged to the calendar. Your hours were someone else's property. You measured your worth by how fast you replied, how early you arrived, how quietly you swallowed your rage. You were a ghost at your own desk. You were a prisoner applauding the guard at the shift change. Then came the breaking point, a small click in the machinery, a voice at 3 a.m. whispering, "If you keep moving like this, they'll bury you with a name tag." And instead of rolling over, you sat up. You realized the bars weren't steel. They were rituals, and rituals can be burned. You stopped being a timekeeper and became a time thief. You stole back your mornings. You stole back your mind. You stole back every second they'd rented out to mediocrity. You began investing those stolen seconds into the kind of moves that don't make sense until it's too late for them to catch you. Now every second of your day is a blade. You cut through rooms without speaking. You appear when you choose, vanish when you please. They call you unpredictable. You call it survival. They call you dangerous. You call it freedom. You don't show up to meetings. Meetings show up to you. This is why they watch you, the way prey watches a predator circling, because you've learned the oldest trick of power: timing. Angels fall when the clock strikes. Demons rise when the bell tolls. You are both. You are the pause between heartbeat and strike. You are the moment when the lights flicker before the blackout. That is why your presence unsettles them. You are not playing by their clock anymore. Every boarding gate you walk through is another grave they dug for you and failed to fill. Every time zone you cross is a boundary they swore you'd never break. Every message you leave unanswered is a lesson in power. Every delay you choose is a calculated silence that makes them doubt their whole map of you. This is not about vacations or laptops on beaches. This is about owning the pulse, about becoming the anomaly their spreadsheets can't track, about realizing that time isn't a line, it's clay, and you can knead it until it fits the shape of your will. You are the storm walking on 2 feet, the saint with a stopwatch, the psychopath of precision. You have turned yourself into the final paradox, a free creature who arrives on time only when it benefits them. And that makes you terrifying, because you cannot be summoned, scheduled, or delayed. Remember this: clocks were built to measure obedience. They were never meant to measure you. You do not fit in hours. You fit in eras. You fit in legends. You are the countdown they cannot defuse. The hour hand trembling at midnight. The living proof that evolution through pain doesn't produce victims. It produces architects of time. So the next time you hear a clock ticking, don't flinch. Smile. That sound is no longer a leash. It's a drum roll. It's the world announcing your next move, even if it doesn't know what it is. It's the sound of every second bending, folding, snapping into your palm. Tick, tock. You're not late. You're not early. You're the moment they didn't plan for. And that moment is eternal. You're not walking anymore. You're gliding through time like it's terrified of interrupting you. And the world, it's struggling to keep up. Like a corrupted file trying to decode a frequency that no longer exists in the system. You ever notice how the air shifts when you enter a space now? How conversations pause without reason, like a script just got deleted mid-scene. That's not your imagination. That's time itself glitching. Because you used to be part of the schedule. Now you're the anomaly that rewrote it. Look around. People still racing to punch in before 9, dragging their souls through doors like prisoners hoping for early parole. Still checking watches, still counting minutes, still measuring life in caffeine and complaints. But not you. You walk into the airport with no return ticket, no itinerary, no estimated arrival. Because your destination isn't a place anymore. It's a statement. Every step is a provocation. Every move is a sermon to those still shackled to alarms and lunch breaks. You used to look at time like a master. Now time looks at you like a thief who broke into the vault and laughed at the cameras. They whisper things now. You don't post often anymore. You've gone quiet. What are you building? Because silence from someone like you is a warning, a countdown, a loaded gun wrapped in velvet. You've learned the real trick of gods and monsters. Not to move fast, but to move on your own damn time. To show up like a ritual, not a routine. To drop into their reality like a myth that shouldn't exist. You wear watches now not to check the time, but to remind yourself that you outlived the version of you who had to. The old you was obsessed with being on time. The new you is the time bomb. And they all feel it, ticking in the walls, ticking in the threads of every conversation, ticking in the pit of their stomachs when they hear your name in rooms you've never entered. You've become that story, the one that doesn't make sense on paper. The one HR can't explain, the one managers warn interns about, the one they try to discredit because they know they can't replicate it. They'll tell themselves you got lucky, that you found a loophole, that it was a one-time thing, but they'll say it with cracked voices and twitching hands, because they're lying, and they know it. You weren't a mistake in the system. You were the proof that the system was the mistake. You are not in the rat race. You are the hawk watching it from above, talons dripping with prophecy. You don't chase time zones, you haunt them. Your aura arrives in cities before your body does. Your influence trickles into morning routines of people who swore they weren't watching. Because what they can't admit is this: they don't want your schedule, they want your spirit. They don't envy your passport. They envy your permission to live. You turned burnout into blueprint, loneliness into leadership, silence into strategy. And while they counted down to Friday, you counted dimensions, opportunities, enemies, and frequencies. You turned minutes into missiles. You walk through hotel lobbies now like you own the floor plan. You pass through boardrooms like a ghost that never needed a seat at their table. They left your name off the invite, but it still ended up on the agenda. Because your absence became louder than their applause. They can't predict you anymore. Because you stopped performing. No breadcrumbs, no updates. Just results that feel like prophecies manifesting overnight. You post a photo, and it feels like a leaked document. You speak once, and it ripples like a verbal detonation. You're not part of the algorithm. You're the glitch that exposes it. Tick-tock. The system is still waiting for you to come back, to humble yourself, to ask for a role again. But here's the part they'll never recover from. You didn't quit. You evolved past their measurement tools. You are not a worker. You are a weather pattern. You are not a colleague. You are a case study. Your time is no longer sliced into 8-hour blocks. It's measured in impact, in shadows cast across maps, in the silence that follows your last move. You walk like you're late to something only you know exists. And that's why they panic. Because if you stopped needing the clock, then maybe they're wasting their whole life worshiping one. So go ahead, let them whisper, let them panic, let them count the seconds while you build the legacy. Tick, tock. You are not counted in minutes anymore. You're counted in aftershocks. Let me show you what happens when someone refuses to evolve. They keep waking up to the same alarm, not because they're disciplined, but because they're afraid of what would happen if they stopped. They shower, dress, drive, plug into the same dead socket hoping for a different voltage. Their soul malfunctions at 9 a.m. sharp. Their dreams die on loop like reruns no one asked for. And deep down, they know. They are clocking into their own extinction. They sit in meetings with wide eyes and caged lungs, laughing at jokes they didn't hear, taking notes they'll never use, pledging loyalty to companies that would auction their corpse for bandwidth. But they stay, because benefits, because security, because what else would I do? I'll tell you what they won't do. Live. They won't quit. They won't leap. They won't burn the clock because they still believe in the lie. That time is money. That obedience is virtue. That retirement is freedom. But you slipped through the cracks. You snapped the leash with a smile. You refused to be punctual for your own decay. You saw what they didn't. That time wasn't your enemy. It was your mirror. And when you looked into it, you saw a version of you no one was ready for. The one who doesn't ask for time, the one who demands attention, the one who stopped tracking hours and started tracking reactions, the one who makes people flinch just by showing up. Because your existence is a threat to every version of them that stayed small. So when they ask, why don't you clock in anymore? Smile, because the truth would break them. Tell them nothing, let them guess, let them stare at the time and wonder why it doesn't feel real when you're around. Because you don't follow hours, you haunt them. You've become the final paradox, a ghost with gravity, a phantom with presence, a legend with no time stamp. They measure years, you measure shockwaves. So let them keep their schedules, their meetings, their mugs. Let them praise punctuality and die on time. You've already outlived the version of yourself who needed their permission. And now, you are the moment the clock stops. Tick, tock, silence. End of file.
Before you ever walked away, you were already gone. Long before they noticed your silence, you had begun to detach quietly, carefully, piece by piece. You stopped expecting them to understand you. You stopped waiting for them to care. You started seeing the truth, not the illusion. And when that truth settled in, you left them in your mind first, long before your body ever followed. They didn't notice it at first. They thought your quietness was mood, not withdrawal. They mistook your patience for peace. But inside, you had already begun the process of letting go emotionally, mentally, spiritually. You stopped explaining your pain to people who caused it. You stopped hoping for apologies that were never coming. You stopped trying to make something work that was already dead. That's the part they'll never understand, how you can leave someone while still being around them. How you can smile, nod, listen, and yet be miles away in your mind. You learned to be present in body but absent in emotion. You stopped investing your energy in chaos and started saving it for your healing. You began rehearsing your piece in silence while they kept performing their same old drama. They thought they still had you because your face was still around. They didn't realize they were talking to a version of you that was already leaving. Every time they lied, every time they disrespected you, every time they acted like you were replaceable, you left a little more. You didn't announce it, you just detached one feeling at a time until nothing was left to break. They always believed people leave in one big moment, a fight, an explosion, a goodbye. But no, the real leaving happens quietly, long before the door closes. It happens when the heart grows tired of forgiving, when trust runs out of fuel, when love stops being enough to justify the pain. That's when you left, not in the end, but in the middle of their pretending. And that's why your final goodbye hit so hard, because to them, it came out of nowhere, but to you, it had been years in the making. They didn't see the distance growing between you. They were too busy talking to themselves in a story they thought they controlled. By the time they noticed your silence, it was already permanent. You left in layers, first your trust, then your care, then your attention, then your love. What remained was just politeness, a shell of what once was. You didn't hate them. You didn't wish them harm. You just stopped feeling anything at all. That's what true closure looks like in difference. They'll say you changed. They'll say you became cold. But the truth is, you just ran out of emotion to give. You stopped trying to fix what wasn't broken because it wasn't yours to fix. You realize some people only love you when you're easy to manipulate, and you stopped being that version. Now they call your name and it doesn't move you. Their apologies sound empty because you've heard them all before. You look at them and see through them the lies, the performance, the desperation. Once upon a time, they had the power to ruin your day with a single word. Now, their existence barely registers in your world. They'll never understand that you didn't leave because you stopped loving them. You left because you started loving yourself. You stopped begging for space in places that suffocated you. You stopped fighting for a connection that only survived when you sacrificed yourself. You stopped bleeding for people who never even tried to heal you. And maybe that's what haunts them most, that they had every chance to keep you, but they kept testing your breaking point. They thought your love was endless. They didn't realize love ends where self-respect begins. So you left first in your heart, then in your mind, and lastly in your steps, and each stage of leaving was cleaner than the last. They miss you now, but not the current you, the one you were before they drained you. They miss the version of you that cared too much, that stayed too long, that forgave too quickly. But that version died quietly while they weren't paying attention. You buried it in the silence they created. Now, when they think about you, it stings. Because they realize too late that your distance wasn't sudden, it was earned. You didn't abandon them. You simply stopped showing up to a place where you weren't valued. You became your own rescue, your own closure, your own peace. And that's the part that kills them. That you didn't need a dramatic ending. That you didn't need revenge or recognition. You just left in your mind, your heart, and your spirit until the only thing left to do was walk away physically. And when you did, it was with the calm of someone who had already made peace with the loss long ago. Now, you walk lighter. Your smile is real again. You sleep better. You breathe deeper. Because you're no longer trying to explain your worth to people who were committed to misunderstanding it. You left their chaos behind, not out of hate, but out of self-respect. And while they wonder how you became so cold, so distant, so unreachable, you know the truth. You didn't become cold. You just stopped burning for people who only brought you smoke. They'll replay the story 1,000 times, searching for when it happened, but they'll never find the exact moment you left because you didn't slam the door. You just slowly stopped walking toward it. You didn't leave with noise, you left with grace. That's what makes it hurt so much for them now that your goodbye wasn't loud, it was final. You left them wondering how they lost you when, all along, you were leaving quietly, in your mind, every time they showed you who they really were. And, by the time they realized, you were already gone. They replay every moment now, trying to pinpoint when your energy began to fade, but that's the irony, isn't it? You didn't leave with fireworks. You left with silence. You stopped laughing at their jokes. You stopped chasing conversations that never went anywhere. You stopped explaining the pain behind your quietness. That's when the shift began, subtle but irreversible. They never realized your silence wasn't confusion. It was clarity. You weren't shutting them out. You were finally shutting the chaos off. Every time they chose pride over peace, you stepped a little further back. Every time they tested your loyalty, you saved a little more of yourself. And before they knew it, you were no longer available for their drama. Now, they missed the version of you that cared too deeply, but that version doesn't exist anymore. You burned that bridge in your heart long before you ever walked away. You stopped craving their validation and started giving yourself what you once begged for: peace, consistency, respect. You learned that closure doesn't always come from conversation. Sometimes it comes from choosing silence. They keep wondering why you never said goodbye, why you didn't leave a note, why you didn't give them one last chance. But why would you? You gave them countless chances when your heart still had hope. You gave them explanations when you owed them none. You gave them grace when they gave you neglect. The goodbye happened gradually every time they proved they didn't deserve access to you. They called it cold, but it wasn't coldness, it was control. You learned how to detach without bitterness, how to love without losing yourself, how to let go without making a scene. They'll call it cruelty, but you know it's healing. You learned that silence is power and peace is revenge. They whisper now, saying, "You've changed." They tell stories about how you fell off, how you switched up. But deep down, they know the truth: you didn't fall off. You outgrew the version of yourself that tolerated their disrespect. You didn't switch up. You finally aligned with your peace. You stopped reacting because you realized not everything deserves your energy. You became a ghost in their story, but a legend in your own. They reach for you, but all they touch is absence, a void they created themselves. That's what eats at them now, not your silence, but the realization that they caused it. You didn't leave out of nowhere. They pushed you there. And now they sit with the echoes of every word, every lie, every manipulation that made you stop caring. You no longer check your phone hoping for messages that never came. You no longer wait for explanations that would never be honest. You learn to stop chasing closure and start becoming it. You built peace from the ashes of what they destroyed. You healed in places they thought you'd never recover. And now, your absence speaks louder than any confrontation ever could. They hear it in every quiet moment, feel it in every failed attempt to find someone like you. Your silence became their mirror, showing them the emptiness they left behind. You don't have to prove your worth anymore. Your peace already does that for you. They can't handle seeing you unbothered, unaffected, untouchable. They thought breaking you would define you. Instead, it refined you. You became sharper, calmer, wiser. They thought betrayal would break you, that stabbing you in the back would make you scream, flinch, or rage. They expected chaos. They wanted to see you lose composure, to see the mask crack. But when you didn't react, when you just stood there calm, collected, unreadable, that's when they realized they'd made a fatal mistake. Because silence from someone who once cared deeply isn't weakness, it's evolution. They were waiting for the storm. They forgot you became the storm long ago. You didn't yell, you didn't fight, you didn't expose them, you simply withdrew. You gave them nothing. No reaction, no energy, no validation. And that emptiness, that's what haunted them. Because when someone snaked you and you didn't flinch, you didn't just win the argument, you ended the war. They thought the knife they planted in your back would slow you down, but it only taught you where not to stand again. You didn't chase revenge, you chose distance. You didn't play their game, you rewrote the rules. And now, they're stuck replaying the scene, confused by your composure. They expected fire and fury, but all they got was a cold, unbothered silence that screamed louder than anger ever could. They whisper about it now. Did you see how calm they were? Because calmness, when betrayal hits, is terrifying. It means you've seen this before. It means you've already mourned the version of them you trusted. It means their betrayal didn't shatter you. It confirmed what you already suspected. You weren't shocked, you were just done. They can't comprehend how someone could be so still after being so wronged. But what they don't know is that peace is the sharpest weapon of all. You learn to turn heartbreak into observation, betrayal into data, disappointment into strategy. You saw their true face, and instead of reacting, you memorized it. You archived it. You filed it under never again. They thought your silence was weakness, it was discipline. You understood that reacting gives power, that emotions feed manipulation. So you cut the supply. You gave them nothing to feed on. You starved their ego until it turned inward and devoured itself. They thought they'd hurt you, but all they did was expose themselves. Now, they walk carefully around your name, like it's a mirror that might show them what they've become. Because you didn't react, you didn't explain, and that forced them to face the guilt they tried to project onto you. Your calm became their punishment. Your detachment became their reminder that they no longer have access to your energy. They miss the old you, the one who would have fought for clarity, for closure, for fairness. But that version of you no longer exists. The old you would have asked, "Why did you do this to me?" The new you just says, "Noted." And that single word carries more power than 1,000 explanations. They were hoping you'd come chasing, defending yourself, trying to fix what they broke. But you didn't. You stayed still, unbothered, watching them unravel under their own guilt. Because when you master your emotions, you master the game. And in the end, it wasn't you who looked weak, it was them, drowning in their own deception. They thought they won when they snaked you, but the real victory was in your restraint. You didn't lose anything. You only cleared the room of those who never deserved to sit at your table. You didn't chase them out. They revealed themselves. And when they did, you didn't react, you observed, you learned, you detached. They're realizing now that silence is the scariest response. Because when someone doesn't react, it means they've already accepted who you are and decided you're irrelevant. You didn't scream. You adjusted your boundaries. You didn't beg for honesty. You built a wall so high they'll never climb back over it. They keep wondering what's going on in your mind, but that's the thing, they no longer have access to it. Your thoughts, your emotions, your next moves all locked away behind calm eyes and steady breaths. You became unpredictable. You became unreadable. And that's the kind of power that terrifies manipulators. They think silence is emptiness, but silence is full of everything they can't handle. It's full of wisdom, awareness, and control. You don't react because you see them fully, clearly, and once you've seen the truth behind the mask, you no longer need to play the game. They'll tell others. They changed, but they won't admit that they are the reason you did. That their betrayal carved out the softness and replaced it with steel. That their deceit taught you what kind of people never deserved your loyalty. They wanted you to explode instead. You evolved. Now, when they cross paths with you, they feel the chill, the polite smile, the detached tone, the distant eyes that say, "I remember everything, but I no longer care." And that's the part that destroys them the most. Because they realize too late your silence wasn't confusion. It was closure. They're shocked that the same person they underestimated now carries silence like a sword. You didn't need revenge. You didn't need confrontation. You just needed peace. And once you chose peace over proving your point, you became untouchable. That's what snakes never understand. Silence isn't surrender. It's sovereignty. It's the calm of someone who already knows how the story ends and no longer needs to narrate it. They replay that moment over and over again, trying to figure out what went wrong. They remember every word they said, every lie they told, every move they made, but what haunts them most isn't the betrayal itself, it's your reaction to it. Or rather, the lack of one. Because how do you defeat someone who doesn't even flinch? How do you get under the skin of a person who's learned to become untouchable? They wanted a scene, but all they got was silence. And silence is terrifying when it comes from someone who once cared. They thought they'd broken something in you. What they didn't realize is that they only broke access. You locked the gates the moment they snaked you, sealed the doors to your energy, and they never noticed until they tried to come back. And when they finally did, they found no trace of emotion left to manipulate. You'd already grieved them long before they betrayed you. That's why their betrayal didn't hurt. It only confirmed what your intuition had been whispering all along. They mistook your quiet for confusion. They thought you didn't understand what happened, but you understood everything too well. You just chose not to respond. Because once you reach a certain level of awareness, you stop explaining, you stop arguing, you stop performing. You simply let people expose themselves, and then you let them live with the consequences. They tried to provoke you into a reaction, to make you slip, to remind you that you still cared, but you gave them nothing. You didn't even blink. That's when they realized your silence wasn't a pause, it was a period. The end of their access. The end of your patience, the end of their illusion of power. And that ending? It burned more than any words you could have said. They started telling people their version of the story, how they were the victim, how you were distant, how you changed. But even their lies couldn't hide the truth that your silence made them look guilty. Because when one person stays calm and the other starts shouting, everyone can tell who lost control. You didn't have to defend your name, your composure did it for you. Now, their guilt keeps them up at night. Because the thing about betrayal is this, it doesn't just ruin trust, it ruins peace. But not yours, theirs. You walked away unbothered, while they stayed behind trying to justify the unjustifiable. You sleep soundly, they rehearse apologies they'll never say out loud. They wanted power, now they're prisoners of their own choices. They wonder if you'll ever confront them, if you'll ever say something, anything. But you won't. You've moved too far ahead for confrontation to even matter. You're not interested in closure from the person who caused the wound. You've realized that peace isn't found in getting answers, it's found in not needing them. That's why you didn't react. Because reacting gives importance to what no longer deserves it. And that, right there, is your quiet revenge living as if they never existed. No loud speeches, no dramatic exits, no public exposure. Just stillness, just indifference, just peace. You didn't destroy them, you simply showed them how irrelevant they are when you stop feeding them energy. They see you now thriving, focused, calm. The same calm they once mistook for weakness. The same silence they thought was surrender. But now, that stillness has weight. It commands attention. You walk like someone who knows too much and speaks too little. You carry the kind of peace that makes people nervous because it comes from surviving chaos and never returning to it. They thought they could replace you. They thought you'd come crawling back, desperate for validation. But you never came. You let time do what revenge couldn't expose the truth. One by one, people started to see their patterns. One by one, they began to lose the audience that once applauded them. Because no matter how loud a snake hisses, silence always sounds wiser. Now they see your calm and confuse it with coldness. But it's not cold, it's clarity. You've simply accepted that not everyone who sits at your table deserves a seat. You've learned that some people can't handle your loyalty because it reminds them of their lack of it. And once you accepted that, you stopped giving explanations. You simply started living differently. That last disrespect, it wasn't loud, wasn't grand, wasn't even unexpected. It was quiet, subtle, the kind of betrayal that slips under the skin and stays there. And that was the moment everything in you went still. You didn't shout, didn't argue, didn't demand explanation. You just detached. Because some endings don't need closure, they just need clarity. You'd forgiven too much before. You'd reasoned your way through their cruelty, softened your edges for their comfort, bit your tongue to keep the peace. But that last moment, that final act of disrespect, it snapped something inside you. Not out of rage, but realization. You saw them exactly as they were, not wounded, not confused, not lost, just careless with something sacred. They thought you'd fight again, plead again, explain again. That's what they were used to, your patience, your effort, your understanding. But this time, the silence hit them harder than any confrontation could. Because silence from someone like you isn't absence. It's finality. It's the sound of someone who's done trying. That last disrespect didn't just hurt, it enlightened you. It showed you where your loyalty ended and your self-respect began. It showed you that no amount of love should ever require you to shrink to be tolerated. They mistook your kindness for weakness, your forgiveness for foolishness. But that last insult was the day you remembered who you were. They didn't notice it then, the calm in your tone, the stillness in your eyes. They didn't realize that they were witnessing your goodbye. Because real departures aren't dramatic. They're quiet. They happen when your spirit finally whispers, "No more." And when that moment comes, there's no going back. That last disrespect burned the last bridge. You didn't set it on fire out of vengeance, it disintegrated from disuse. You simply stopped walking across it. You stopped giving explanations, stopped proving your worth, stopped bleeding for people who never offered bandages. You realized the war had been one-sided all along, and that's when everything changed. The same silence they used to mock became your armor. The same indifference they mistook for weakness became your strength. You learned that you don't need revenge when your peace is this loud. You learned that walking away doesn't mean defeat, it means evolution. They'll tell people you changed, that you went cold. They'll twist the story, paint themselves as victims of your distance. But you and the universe know the truth. You didn't change, you remembered yourself. You stopped pouring into what was already leaking. You stopped loving where you were only tolerated. Now, they replay at that last moment. The words they said, the look you gave, the way you didn't react. They thought they won when you walked away calmly. They thought your silence meant surrender. But they were wrong, it meant freedom. Because when someone disrespects you for the last time, they don't realize they're not just ending the argument, they're ending access. That last disrespect was your graduation, the day you outgrew the version of yourself that tolerated what you didn't deserve. You didn't walk away bitter, you walked away aware. And awareness is a one-way street. Once you see people for who they are, you can't unsee it. Once you know peace, chaos becomes unbearable. They'll miss the version of you that cared. They'll crave the softness they mistook for weakness. But you can't go back to a place that taught you how to doubt your worth. You can't rebuild with people who are addicted to your pain. They'll call you heartless now, but that's what people call you when they can no longer manipulate your heart. You didn't slam the door. You just closed it quietly, so quietly they didn't even notice until they reached for the handle and found it locked. And now, every time they think of you, they remember that silence, that final look, that calm goodbye that hit harder than any revenge ever could. They wonder if you think about them. You don't. They wonder if you hate them. You don't. You're simply done. Because when peace enters, resentment leaves. When self-worth grows, attachment dies. That's the real glow-up. Not moving on fast, but moving on free. Now they see it, the strength they underestimated, the grace they took for granted, the calm that used to make them feel safe. They realized too late that losing your presence was the real punishment. You didn't just leave their life, you left their control. And every day since, they've been learning the hard way. The most dangerous goodbye isn't shouted in anger. It's whispered in silence, right after the last disrespect. That last disrespect didn't just push you away, it woke something ancient inside you. It reminded you of the version of yourself that existed before the apologies, before the excuses, before the emotional labor you performed for people who mistook your empathy for obedience. That was the moment you remembered that you were not made to beg for peace, you are peace. And anything that disrupts that, no matter how familiar, has to go. You stopped explaining your worth to people who were committed to misunderstanding it. You stopped trying to heal those who kept reopening the wounds for attention. That final disrespect became your divine permission slip to choose yourself. It wasn't weakness, it was awakening. Because sometimes it takes being disrespected one last time to remember that silence can be sacred. They thought your silence was emotional collapse, they didn't realize it was rebirth. While they mistook your quiet for defeat, you were busy rebuilding. While they were laughing behind your back, you were already halfway to freedom. That's what they'll never understand. When someone like you leaves, you don't come back. You don't revisit the ruins, you start over somewhere brighter. They told themselves you'd reach out eventually. They convinced themselves that time would soften your stance. But days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, and you stayed gone. Not out of spite, but because peace finally felt like home. Once you've tasted peace after surviving chaos, nothing toxic tastes the same again. That last disrespect shifted your entire energy. You stopped matching effort, stopped explaining boundaries, stopped trying to prove loyalty. You realized that some people only respect you when they can use you. You learned that you can forgive someone and still deny them access. You understood that closure doesn't require conversation. Sometimes it just requires walking away and meaning it. Now they wonder why you're so calm, why you don't react, don't argue, don't defend yourself. But that's the thing, when you've seen true disrespect, nothing else deserves your energy. The old you would have fought to be understood. The new you just lets time do the talking. And time has a cruel way of revealing everything people tried to hide. They feel it now, that quiet distance that says more than words ever could. Every time they remember what they did, they feel that silence closing in. It's not anger, it's consequence. Because people rarely realize how valuable your presence is until they're locked out of it. And by then, it's too late. The same mouth that disrespected you now speaks your name with guilt. The same people who thought you were replaceable now watch your absence rearrange everything. They thought you'd always be there until you weren't. They thought they'd always have time to make it right until time ran out. That's what happens when you play with someone who loves deeply. Once they stop caring, it's irreversible. You don't seek revenge, you became the lesson. Your peace is the punishment. Your silence is the echo they can't escape. They wonder how you managed to let go so easily, but that's the thing, it wasn't easy. It was necessary. You mourned in silence, healed in solitude, and now you wear detachment like armor. They'll never forget the way you left. No tears, no anger, no drama, just composure, the kind that cuts deeper than shouting ever could. Because nothing scares people more than realizing you're done without closure. You left them with their guilt, their words, their chaos, and they've been trying to drown the echo of your calm ever since. Now, when your name comes up, they don't know what to say. They laugh awkwardly, change the subject, pretend they're unbothered. But deep down, they know they lost something irreplaceable. They lost someone who would have gone through storms for them all because they couldn't control their pride for one moment. And maybe that's poetic, just as the same pride that caused the disrespect is now the silence that eats at them. They want to apologize, but the same ego that broke everything still sits in the way. That's the thing about disrespect. Once it's seen, it can't be unseen. You can forgive it, but you'll never look at them the same again. They thought they won by pushing you away, but you were the prize. You were the stability they didn't know they needed, the calm they didn't know they'd crave, the peace they thought they could find elsewhere. Now, they see it. Too late. That last disrespect cost them everything they never knew they valued until it was gone. So let them think about it. Let them wonder. Let them choke on their regret. You owe them nothing, not explanation, not forgiveness, not another chance. The version of you that tolerated that treatment no longer exists. You buried that version with your final goodbye. That last disrespect was their mistake, but your awakening. It was the last test before transformation. Because once you realize your worth doesn't decrease because someone failed to see it, you never settle again. And that's your revenge, not anger, not bitterness, just indifference. They're sorry now. The kind of sorry that comes after destruction, when the damage is irreversible and silence is the only answer left. The kind of sorry that tastes like regret and sounds like excuses whispered too late. But you don't flinch, you don't soften. You just watch, calm, detached, unbothered. Because you've outgrown the version of yourself that needed their apology to move on. You hear their remorse, but you no longer feel it. Because the truth is, their regret isn't born from guilt, it's born from consequences. They're not sorry for what they did, they're sorry that you finally stopped caring. That's the difference. They don't miss you, they miss the power they had over you. And when that power vanished, so did their confidence. Once upon a time, you would have melted at those words, "I'm sorry." You would have believed that remorse meant change. But now, you just smile, because this time, you know better. You learn that sorry means nothing when respect was never present. You learn that peace is louder than closure, and silence is stronger than forgiveness. They can't comprehend how you became this version of yourself, calm, confident, untouchable. They expected you to crawl back, to break, to need them again. Instead, you rose from the ashes they set on fire, not as the victim, but as the villain they accidentally created. They wrote the script, you rewrote the ending. You don't chase anymore, you attract. You don't beg, you observe. You don't fight for attention, you command it by existing. That's what your villain era really is. Not cruelty, but clarity. You finally learned to stop explaining your heart to people who were committed to misunderstanding it. You stopped bleeding for the ungrateful. You started choosing you. Now, they whisper. They say you've changed, that you're cold, that you don't care. But you do care, just not about them. You care about your peace, your purpose, your energy. You've learned that not every war deserves your weapon, and not every cry deserves your compassion. Some people need to live with the absence of your softness to understand its worth. They're sorry now because they finally see the other side, the one where they no longer exist in your story. They see you thriving, glowing, at peace, and it haunts them. Because in their mind, you weren't supposed to survive without them. You weren't supposed to find happiness after the betrayal. But you did, effortlessly. You became their nightmare not because you hurt them, but because you healed, because you turned their chaos into your calm, their rejection into your rebirth. You became the walking reminder of what they'll never have again. That's the kind of revenge that requires no plotting, just growth. Now they want to come back, but they can't even find the road to you. You've sealed every door they once entered. You've changed the locks, built walls of gold around your energy, and learned to smile without explanation. Their "I miss you" doesn't land anymore. It echoes in the emptiness they created. You see, your villain era isn't about vengeance, it's about reclamation. It's about taking back every ounce of power you once gave away freely. It's about knowing your worth so deeply that losing people no longer hurts, it enlightens. You're not heartless, you're healed. You're not bitter, you're balanced. They stare at your calm like it's cruelty. They can't tell if you've forgiven them or forgotten them, and that's the beauty of it. You owe them no clarity. You owe them no closure. You became the question that keeps them awake at night. You are the silence they can't interpret, the mystery they'll never solve. They try to mimic your peace now. They post quotes about healing and strength, pretending they've evolved too. But you can't fake alignment. They're still running from the truth while you sit comfortably in it. Because your glow isn't revenge, it's divine confirmation that you survived what was meant to destroy you. And deep down, they know they created this version of you. They trained the villain through their disrespect, through their manipulation, through their lies. They made you cold, then got angry when you stopped melting. They wanted control, but they birthed indifference. That's the most poetic punishment of all. Now, when they look at you, they see everything they once mocked: power, self-control, grace. You don't respond with fire anymore. You respond with absence. Because the most dangerous person in the room isn't the one shouting, it's the one who has nothing left to prove. They can apologize until their throats bleed, but you've already detached. You learned that forgiveness doesn't always mean reconnection. Sometimes it's just release. You don't wish them harm, you wish them distance. You're not angry, you're indifferent. And that indifference is what kills them slowly. They hate that you're unshaken, that you don't talk about them, don't defend yourself, don't explain, because they thought your power was your love, but it was your restraint. And now that restraint is their punishment. They'll keep waiting for the old you, not realizing that version died the day you stopped seeking their validation. They're sorry now, but not because they care. They're sorry because you moved on. You didn't just survive the betrayal, you made it irrelevant. You became everything they said you couldn't be: strong, peaceful, complete. And that's what haunts them. Not your anger, but your evolution. Because nothing terrifies guilty people more than seeing the one they broke unbreakable. So let them apologize. Let them regret. Let them romanticize the chaos they caused. You're not coming back. You're too far gone, too at peace, too in love with your own growth to ever return. You're the storm they summoned and the calm that followed it. You don't seek their closure anymore, you are their closure. You don't need to burn bridges. Your silence is the wildfire. You don't need to prove your worth, your peace already does. So when they come back with trembling words and sad eyes, smile, not out of cruelty but out of understanding. Because you finally see it, their apology isn't redemption, it's recognition. They finally see who you always were. And that's the real villain arc, not becoming evil, but becoming untouchable. They never expected your silence to be this loud. They thought time would soften you, that you'd come back when the anger faded, but they didn't realize it wasn't anger keeping you away. It was peace. It was clarity. You finally saw the pattern for what it was, the endless cycle of breaking and fixing, wounding and healing, apologizing and repeating. You decided not to play anymore. You learned that walking away wasn't weakness, it was intelligence. They call you cold now because you no longer react. They call you changed because you stopped entertaining their chaos. But you didn't change, you just stopped being the one who tolerated pain in the name of love. You became observant, not emotional, strategic, not sentimental. You became the calm after the storm, the kind of calm that terrifies people who thrive on noise. They watch your every move now. They study your composure like it's an unsolvable riddle. How can someone who lost everything still look so complete? How can someone who was betrayed still smile without bitterness? It's simple because you realized peace isn't something they can take from you once you decide to guard it. You stopped waiting for closure from people who were never capable of giving it. Now they sit in silence, haunted by your absence. Every time they scroll past something that reminds them of you, they pause not out of nostalgia but disbelief. Because in their story, you were supposed to crumble. You were supposed to beg for their validation, to come crawling back once loneliness hit. But you didn't. You built an empire out of solitude instead. You became the embodiment of every lesson they refused to learn. You became what happens when someone breaks and rebuilds correctly, stronger, wiser, colder. You became everything they feared. A version of yourself that doesn't need them anymore. They used to be your weakness. Now they're just a memory that doesn't move you. They apologize now, but it's not for you, it's for their own guilt. They want to ease their conscience, not heal your heart, but your silence robs them of that luxury. You don't respond. You don't engage. Because some apologies don't deserve acknowledgement. They deserve distance. You learned that some people only say sorry because they hate seeing you at peace. And that peace, that stillness drives them insane. Because how can you not care? How can you not lash out, not curse their name, not demand answers? But that's the secret. Indifference is the highest form of revenge. You don't need to punish them. Their own thoughts do that job perfectly. You've become the ghost that lives in their guilt. Now they watch you thrive from afar. They hear your name whispered in rooms they no longer belong to. They see your strength celebrated by the very people who once doubted you. And that burns them from the inside. Because they thought breaking you would elevate them, but all it did was reveal your power and expose their weakness. They thought your heart was naive, that your kindness was submission. But now they understand your kindness was control. You were never blind, you were just giving them a chance to prove who they were. And when they did, you didn't argue, you just left. No shouting, no tears, no chaos, just silence, permanent, powerful silence.